Hi everyone, Noah the Peaceful Wanderer here. Today I want to talk to you about something that had a big impact on my life. And that's the understanding of freedom and what that means. What does the word freedom mean to you? Take a second, think about it. So the word freedom to me always meant being able to do and say what I wanted to do, what I chose to do. So if you ask me, and if you describe freedom, I would say, I want to choose to be a millionaire, and I want to choose to eat this kind of food, and I want to choose to date that kind of woman. And I realized one day that freedom, that actually wasn't freedom. What freedom actually was the ending of choice. Because the moment I made a choice to go in one of these directions, I had actually given up freedom. Freedom is the ability to move in any direction at once, not in one isolated way. So that was a big breakthrough in my mind, because I'd always imagined that choice implied freedom, but in actuality it was the opposite. Choice actually gave me no freedom. And I went through my whole life making choices. And so then what is a choice? A choice, as I've discovered, implies confusion. Why? Well, if I have to choose between one thing or another, then I'm obviously in a state of confusion. I don't know what to do. So for me, I realized that constantly making choices in my mind, should I take this job? Shouldn't I take this job? Should I go here? Should I go there? I was in this constant state of confusion, and that increased anxiety in the mind and gave me no freedom. I was always in this state of confusion and choice. And so once I started to let that go and realizing the fallacy of choice, I started questioning, why am I always choosing? What is this? Why is the mind always in this state of confusion? And then I started to think about what thinking is. What is thinking? What is this process that I use to make decisions in my life? And so I started to realize that thought was this very limited capacity. Thought was this process that we as human beings use to figure things out, to reason things out. But a lot of times, psychologically, it was becoming a hindrance. Well, why? Well, because what I figured out was that thought were just little pieces. They were not whole experiences. They were just little things that I could think about individually. If you've ever played a sport or you've tried to learn something new, when you're learning that thing, you can only think about one thing at a time as you're learning it. You can't see the whole picture at once. You go through this process of one step, one step, one step, one step, and at the end you tie them all together. So thinking and life is much in the same process. Thought is just one little segment. Imagine a puzzle. And thought is just one piece of the puzzle. And I told you to think about the whole puzzle from that one piece. Well, you couldn't do it. You would just have the one thing, and then you would have to start to assume, or you'd have to try to invent ideas about what these things could be. The other thing I learned about thought, what thought was always from memory. It was always memories. So I would have a memory about something. You can't think of the unknown. You can only think about things you know. Well, how do you know these things? You know them from past experiences, from memories. You learn them. How did I learn my alphabet and how to do math and all these different things? I learned them from someone teaching me step by step by step by step, A, B, C, D, and then carrying those on for the rest of my life. And the pictures that I have in my mind are from memories. So if I think about creating something, I can only use the store bank from my memories to kind of create something from those memories. Now you might say, well, there's something new. I created something new because I thought about something from my past and I melded it with this and this and this. Yeah, but you still just used those past experiences to create that thing that's new. So it's really not new. It's just the past experiences brought into the future, into the present. And so I started to see all of this, and my mind started to really grow in different ways. And I started questioning everything. I started saying, well, what happens? What would happen? Is it possible to stop thinking? Is that even possible? And what happens when you stop thinking? And when I had that question, I knew that my brain had been on go since a very early age. So stopping thought was going to be very difficult, because the only way I knew how to interact with life was through thinking about it, through saying, well, what am I going to do today? Oh, it's time to go to the bathroom. Oh, I think I'm going to eat this. And you start to realize that you're in this constant state of thought. Well, then something happened to me. I had a problem I couldn't solve. And I'd gotten to the point where I grew so frustrated with the problem that I just gave up and I stopped. I said, I can't figure this problem out. And when you get to the point where you can't figure something out, you stop. Well, when I stopped trying to solve this problem, for a split second, there was a gap between my thoughts. Just a few seconds of the mind being truly quiet. Not forced quiet, not through meditation, but actually quiet. And in that moment, I felt so much freedom. And I said, oh no, this is the space. This is the creative space that I'm looking for. This is the area that we never operate in as human beings. And so then I started to do some experiments. I said, well, what would happen if I sat down to a piece of blank canvas, just a blank piece of paper, and I were to try to draw something on this canvas, but I didn't think about what I was going to draw. I just had my mind silent in this state of non-thought. What would come out? Well, I didn't know the answer, because anytime I tried to draw before, I would always think, or I would set an apple down and I would try to draw the apple, or draw what I thought I saw, or think about the person's face that I was going to draw, or just always thinking and trying to get the thought to match the hand. And it would never come out in any real creative way. It would always be like a copy, or it would never feel original. And so I set about to do this experiment where I said, blank canvas, here's some charcoal, let's see what comes out. No idea. When I sat down at this blank sheet of paper and I started drawing, it just looked like nothing at first. And I just kept going and kept going and kept going. And within a few minutes, this whole beautiful image of a woman's face with two hands by her ears, people talking to her, it just started to emerge on the paper. And it's one of the most beautiful pictures I've ever painted. And I started doing this nightly. I started doing all these different pictures, and they would come out so quickly. They would come out so quickly because there was no control. There was complete freedom of movement. There was no mind controlling the action. And I saw such beauty and such creativity in that way of expressing myself, as opposed to the thought out, calculated, thought-driven way, which is always in a state of confusion because it's always choosing what to do. And so freedom, when we get back to this main point, freedom is when there is no confusion, no choice. You are truly free to move in all directions without choice, and therefore no confusion. So think about this talk. See how it applies to your life. See if it can help you break through some of these chains of thought. Because thought is good for making computers and doing some certain things, reasoning out some certain things. But if we're trapped in it all the time, then we're not using thought. Thought is using us. And that's a dangerous place to be. That's when anxiety comes in. That's when fear comes in. That's when all these choices come in, which create confusion and create havoc on our life. So I hope you enjoyed this talk. I'm coming to you from the south of France today. It's beautiful out here. I thought it'd be a great place to have a little talk, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. And with that, I say peace, happiness, and love to all. And I'll see you next time. Take care.